back to the Pit Stop Tournament Expert Division qualifying round, hole number 1. This is our Titan option for those of you that do not have a lot of Zerks or just don't want to use them. You can play this with a Titan. The only caveat to this, and the reason it's option 2, is because when you use more topspin, it gives you a higher probability of catching some kind of weird glitchy roll. With that being said, the only time I rolled long was when I hit a bad great left. I caught a kind of speed roll and just barely trickled into the rough. It was still a good shot at eagle, but I hit double great left and finished in the rough. Had I hit perfect, it would have been on the fairway, right where we wanted it to be. So, like I said, it's a little more risky because you're playing with more topspin. That being said, it's still a pretty safe shot. Easy eagle with a Titan, so long as you don't hit too bad of a great and you make sure your adjustments are proper. So with that being said, what we're going to do is we're going to start at P3 max extension, and we're going to aim center of this bush here. So that's our starting point for all level Apox 5 plus. Just kind of lining up with the center of this bush at max extension, release it, and then adjust. We're adjusting P3 plus 10% max, and then pushing back to max. Just like in the Zerk shot here, we're going to need to pay attention to wind angles. There's two major wind angles, same as the Zerk shot. So what we're basically doing is we're looking at these cabins here in the background. The right side of these cabins marks our line that we need to pay attention to. So anything inside the cabins and to the left, you'll use 1 right spin. Anything to the right of the cabins with your center line, you'll use 0.6 right spin, right? You'll use top spin as needed per wind strength, and that is as follows. Wind between 8 and 8.7, use 5.5 top spin. 8.8 to 9.5, you'll use 5 top spin. 9.6 to 10.2 uses 4.5 top spin. 10.3 to 11.0 uses 4.0 top spin. And 11.1 to 11.9, you'll use 3.4 top spin. Now, the reason I went all the way to 11.9 here is because if you're not great at hitting, say, a full overpower perfect shot with a Titan, you can set up at P3 max extension with any P3 ball pointing at the bush like I showed you. Then when you release it, before you adjust, you can switch to a Zerk, right? Then you'll adjust the Zerk numbers. Then when you push back to the top of the plus 16. And so you play the same spin sets that I gave you earlier. Instead of pushing to max, you'll push back to the top of the plus 16, and that will give you a slower needle for your drive, right? So there's 2 ways you can play this. You can stick with the Titan and then just adjust Titan wind numbers, push back to max, play it at a full OP shot. Or once you set up, switch to your Zerk, adjust your Zerk wind numbers, push back up to the top of the plus 16 using the same spin values and the same curl, right? Both shots will play the same way, and that's why I gave you the wind to spin chart all the way up to 11.9. So you have a couple of options there if you want to try and slow down the needle for your drive. That will take care of it for you. And on this shot, we're always using full overpower, half a ball of right curl, right? So instead of tweaking our curl value on this one, we're tweaking our side spin. If your center line is in the cabins, you'll use 1 right spin. If your center lines is anything right of the cabins in the back, then you'll use 0.6 right spin. It's always full OP, always half a ball of curl. hit perfect, and the Endbringer plays the same. Standard Endbringer rule, plus 20% elevation, whichever Powerball you're using. It'll be, if you're using a Titan, it'll be P3 plus 20 EB rule. If you're using the Zerg, it'll be P5 plus 20 EB rule. And the same thing applies on this one, whereas you don't want to set up on the fringe for this Endbringer shot. Either set up higher onto the green and add some backspin, or set up lower onto the fairway if you need to add a little bit of topspin. But don't set up on the fringe. I recommend you give yourself a little bit of space. If you're setting up on the green, make sure that you're a few rings up onto the green away from the fringe. If you're setting up on the fairway, make sure that you have a few rings above you, in between you and the fringe. Because when you start getting close to that fringe, the ball wants to kick sideways a bit on you, and you'll be mad when you miss a standard Endbringer shot, burning the edge. And most likely, if that happens, it's because you landed too close to the fringe. So besides that, really good chance, free to play option, grabbing an eagle on hole number 1. Good luck. Hope you guys get the drop, and we'll catch you on the next hole.